Hi, David.
Hello, Jane.
Let's see, what time is it? It's 6:29. So Saida, are you still there?
I'm still here, yes.
Okay, so at 6:30, we're going to start, and maybe we'll start with you giving your overview of how the public can be heard.
Okay,
Saida, I have for some reason, I seem to have the agenda on my screen. Is that correct?
it is, yes. Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 17, 2021 Landmarks Committee meeting. My name is Saida Harrigan, and I'll be moderating the technical aspects of tonight's meeting. A few notes for you, particularly if this is your first meeting with us, you'll notice that you are muted and unable to mute yourself. After the presentations, co-chairs will call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can ask to be recognized by raising your virtual hand. You can do that by going to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. It's important not to raise your physical hands or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you among the other participants. If you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute. Once you're recognized by the co-chair, I will unmute you, and you may be prompted to confirm unmuting on your device. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you can access the raise hand feature by clicking the participants button on the menu at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. The chat function is available for technical support only, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. You can send me a chat if you're having any trouble, and I can walk you through any issues and help troubleshoot. And with that, I'll pass the mic to co-chairs David and Jean.
Thank you, Saida. Thank you for your help. I will go to, I can see everyone. We have 2 applications tonight. We will vote on the context and appropriateness of each application. We will first hear, as Saida said, from the public, then we will hear from the applicant first, then we will go to the public, and then we will finally go into executive session and formulate a resolution that will be presented to our full board at its monthly meeting, which is this coming Wednesday on Zoom. So with that, we're going to get started. The first application is 4066th Street, the Eppery Side Historic District. It's an application, is for window alterations, a beautiful building designed by J.E.R. Carpenter and Cross and Cross. The architect noted on the agenda is Peter Penoyer, but is there someone here from his firm who's going to present for us?
Yes, I'm muting everyone that is.
Oh, I see Peter Penoyer. He's here.
He is, yes.
Thank you. Well, that's nice of you to come. I've been watching your building go up, the one on
Thanks.
Madison. Okay, we can get started.
Great. Do you want me to share my screen now?
Yes, please. Saida will help you with that or get it going.
Okay.
You should be all set.
Okay, let me screen share. Now let me try to make this smaller. This smaller. Nope. Just give me 1 minute here. I had it up. Here we go. Here we go. Second minute to download. There we go. It's just loading. Just to give you a preview, this application is for window replacement and some window alterations on this extraordinary building that wraps into the middle of the block behind the Chapel of Temple Emmanuel. What we have here are the tax photos. The upper right tax photo shows you that you do get a view of the south wall of this building, which is unusual. It's because of the low, essentially 3-story building next to it, which is part of Temple Emmanuel. Below that, you see another context photo. I will just proceed through these. The windows which Landmarks has examined in some detail and asked to be brought to a public hearing are either in a court, which is labeled the court of the middle of the plan, which is a south-facing indentation in the building, or on the south wall and on two west-facing portions of the building, which are set well back from the avenue. The portion of this work which is visible from the public way is essentially the corner. I'll indicate it as we go through, but the wall of the main wall of the courtyard, as well as the east-facing wall, are not visible. So just to indicate, this is our existing condition. You see that we have in the room that's closest to Fifth Avenue, we have two windows. They've been blocked up, but there are two windows that exist there. And in the window facing it, I'm not sure if you're seeing my mouse or if I can get mouse control. We have a window, a large, very large double hung window here. We do not have a window in the kitchen, which is another subject. And then we have windows, smaller existing windows in the back. Our proposal is to take the existing windows within the courtyard and bring their sills down to balcony height and install ironwork and match that appearance on the other side of the court, making the court elevation symmetrical, adding windows in the kitchen and expanding the area of window in the what is a bedroom. Going to the next slide, at the top, you see the existing condition. The top three elevations are within that south-facing court. So the three windows in the middle, which are single glazed, just one sheet of glass, are south-facing. To the left, you see multi-light windows, 6/6 and 8/8, which are facing east. And then you see these rather large double hung windows facing west. These are all inside the courtyard. The hatched areas are the areas that indicate that we would want to expand our openings for 6 of them. This means lowering the sill, and for one of them, it means moving an opening and finally creating a new opening. The elevation you see below is our proposed elevation. What's interesting about it is that you see that our neighbor to the on the next floor, on the 9th floor, has built the windows out in such a way that they are actually French doors, terrace doors, multi-light, with really lovely ironwork. You can see them in the existing condition photo on the right. So there is a precedent for such an approach to the fenestration on this court. It also exists on a lower floor, and that floor, I believe it's 3, was the subject of review and approval by Landmarks in 2015, and we can submit that paperwork in case you're interested in looking at that and see how they dealt with this. I did want to point out that of these windows, only the right-hand window is visible from the public way. We'll show you a diagram in a bit showing you that. We also note that the pattern of windows that we're proposing on the left-hand side of the court mirror the pattern of windows below, not the pattern of window above. Above, we just have one opening. Below, we're making 2, and we're mirroring that on the side of the other side. Then to turn to the west-facing elevation of the building, this wall here on the left, where we're showing the hatch, is our proposed opening into the kitchen. The kitchen now just has a solid brick wall. There are apartments in the building which do have windows. It is very inconsistent. On the 9th floor, we have a single 6/6 window, and on the 10th floor, these large tilt and turn windows. So we are proposing to put in a 3-part window in that situation right there. And then way farther off in the farthest east wing of this building, we're showing that we would take 2 windows, a bathroom window and a bedroom window, and combine them and make it into a triple window. That's our proposal. You can see from Fifth Avenue, these orange squares indicate where those windows would appear. And you can also see that below. Please interrupt me at any point if you have any questions. We are matching the existing ironwork, which has become a feature of some floors of this building, although we will not match the gold. I think we'll just keep it black paint. So these are details of the windows, and I think that we were, working very carefully within the existing brickwork here, and on the other wall within those bricks. Here is our 3-part window, which we're proposing for the kitchen, and then the 3-part window, which we're proposing for the bedroom. And this is a diagram and this is in our submission, that shows you close-ups of these various windows and conditions. It's a little bit complicated to look at because there is existing scaffolding there for another project in the building. So that is our proposal. Let me go up to an overview right here. And I don't know if there are any questions, or if you want me to to stay online in case you have any questions.
Well, I'm sure some members of the committee or from the public, if they're there, may have questions for you. That's your presentation. If that's it, we'll just go to the public if anyone from the public is here. Saida?
I don't see any raised hands. Just as a reminder, you can go to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and select the raise hand feature, or *9 on your phone.
Well, if you don't see anyone, Saida, we will go to the committee, or do you see?
We do have one. We do have one.
Oh, great. Okay, wonderful.
Okay, Marty, confirm unmuting. Marty, confirm unmuting on your device.
We might come back to him. Saida, is his hand still raised?
It is still raised, yes.
He doesn't know where the
Okay,
unmute is.
I think he got it. There you are.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Just a simple question. What is the purpose of these new windows? Is it for light? Is it for aesthetics? Is it for both?
Before, let me could you identify yourself and give your street address, please?
Sure, Marty Edelman, 333 East 66th Street, and it's in my neighborhood, and that's why I just wanted to, and I walk to
fine.
Central Park every day, so I probably seen the building.
Okay, thank you. Peter, you can answer.
Yes, the purpose of the window package is to introduce light. In the main rooms, these French door setups are really terrific in the other apartments where it's been done. And it's taking advantage of the unique sort of character of this court as it relates to Temple Emmanuel. The kitchen one is frankly that when they built this building, even though J.E.R. Carpenter was a great architect, I don't think he thought it was important to give the cook a view. And now the world has changed, so we want to give a view and light there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. If that's the only raised hand, Saida, we could go to the committee. You might go in alphabetical order.
Okay, Elizabeth Ashby, confirm unmuting.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. One is, what are the materials? Are these wooden or steel, or what is the material of the windows? And do you have any photographs of the original windows in the building?
The photograph, I'm going to first go to your first question, the original windows in the building. So this is what we have showing for the original windows. The original windows were wood windows. They were single glazed, double hung wood windows.
1/1?
Yeah, some of them were 1/1 and some of them were multi-light. I'm trying to zoom in.
Because I would have thought with Carpenter of the time that they would be multi-light.
Yes, they were multi-light. Indeed, they were. The larger ones are 8/8. Yes, and the materials of all the windows, all the double hung windows will be wood, insulated, tree divided lights, and then the tall ones will be bronze, and they will be painted to match the same color. I can go to the material board.
And the surrounds will be molded. The window frames and so on will not be squared off. They'll be molded.
Correct. We will copy the historic brick mold pattern, and it will be set back correctly within the depth of the opening.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, I think that this is wonderful. I think that, of course, anything would be an improvement on what's there, but I think that this is an excellent proposal, and I certainly will support it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You, Gail?
Good evening. Elizabeth asked my questions, actually, with the exception of one. Is there a window master plan for the building?
I don't think there is one, but we can get back to you on that. In fact, I'm almost certain there isn't one because each of these issues was raised discreetly by the building. In other words, they took the building first had to look at this, and they did not have the guidance of a master plan.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I have some comments and questions. I have to say, I'm a little disappointed in the visuals. I would have liked to see actual pictures as opposed to renderings so that we could get a better idea of what the window frames actually look like, what you're keeping, what you're discarding. And I don't really have the answers to those questions. You're cutting most of them down so that they'll be longer. And
Correct.
you talked about them being sort of French doors. However, these these iron balcony, I don't know if they're really balconies. I mean, are they just visual decoration or are they actually balconies that you can step out on?
They are simply visual decoration.
And yet you want the windows cut all the way down?
Yes, because these are quite translucent. We've seen what they look like from behind, and it still lets a great deal of light in.
What's the measurement of the current window and the measurement of the proposed?
I do not have that on my fingertips, but I can. And the problem with Zoom is I can't see we have dimensions on this sheet, and I simply am unable. Is it appropriate for us to send you? I mean, they're right. I'm embarrassed to say I cannot read it on my screen. We have dimensions here.
All right, look, with all due respect, that's really pretty basic to this presentation is
Right.
what are the sizes of the windows. So I have to say I'm a little disappointed that you can't provide that.
Right.
I
I
can't see
apologize.
it on your plan either, but it must be somewhere in your personal, dealings with this building. You must have that.
Of course.
All right, so I'm sorry to hear that. The other thing is your first comment was that these are in a recessed courtyard and they're not visible. And then you pointed to, I think it was page 5, I'm not sure, saying that they were visible from Fifth Avenue. So which is it? Are they visible or they're not visible?
Not all of them are visible. Let me go to the plan and I'll show you the ones that are visible would be here on this side, the west-facing ones. This isn't really visible.
The
because-
ones that are visible, what are those windows? What do they look like? Is that the big new double one? Or
Yeah,
is that
the one that's visible now looks like this. It's two almost 4 feet wide double hung windows ganged together.
And what are you proposing to do to it?
And we're proposing to instead have two, French door like terrace doors, excuse me. The head height is the same. The head height in all these does not change.
Can you tell me how many inches you're dropping it?
We're dropping it down to the floor level. And so again, I'm sorry to say I do not have the exact dimension. I think it's about 7.5 feet, but I would have to get back to you.
7.5 feet. You mean the overall height of the window, or you're dropping it?
No, just the overall height is probably around 7.5. All we're doing is we're taking from the existing sill, we're coming down a certain dimension that I
understand.
Yep.
How much do you recall? How many inches or feet you're coming down?
Approximately 2 feet between 2 feet and 29 inches. It's right in there.
So how much room does that leave you between the end of that newly proposed window and the window on the lower floor?
Oh, I can show you that very easily. Let me go to there. Yes, so that I would have to be able to measure it. I'm so used to having drawings to look at, but so I apologize. I'm not able to give you that exact dimension. It looks to be about 30 inches or so.
Okay. I think I'm going to have to abstain on this. I just don't have. I mean, the visuals are not adequate for me, and I don't have enough information. But thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Alita?
Thank you. So I'm a little bit confused. The windows where you're taking the double hung window in the bedroom and making it the double French door and then another French door, that faces Fifth Avenue.
Okay, so I'm now on this sheet, and I'll go from left to right.
Not that side, the other side.
Okay, this side. Yes, this side faces Fifth Avenue. So that if you are, so that is, here's Fifth Avenue and there are those windows.
So I have a little trouble with this because changing the configuration alters, even though the windows are not symmetrical at all, or identical rather, there's a symmetry to the spacing of the windows, which it looks like, although I have to agree with Michelle that it's hard to tell, that will be disrupted when you alter the placement or the size of the windows. That looks really out of place to me. Again, I can't really tell because there's a mishmash of window styles, and I love the idea of the true divided lights. That will be beautiful, but a change in placement will do something disruptive. I think I do like the idea of the iron balconies, but I have to say that I think if Michelle is concerned about the different length and the impact on the visual aesthetics of the building, then I feel inclined right now to agree with her because we don't have what it will look like, unless I'm just missing the point here. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alita.
Hi, Peter. I missed your presentation, but I did look carefully at it earlier. I was late because of another meeting. I have to say that this is just fine to me. I do have one question, which you may have already answered, which is why you're not altering the windows on the street-facing sides.
All those are being replaced in kind, but they are not part of this presentation because Landmarks is approving those at the staff level.
Okay. I I don't really have any problem with this at all. I think that this was always intended to be a rear facade, frankly. And yeah, you're making the windows longer, but they're no longer really than the ones on the floor above, which are already there. And it seems to me as though we're making, as though some of us are making a big deal of something we don't have to. I think it would be I think they'd be lovely. I love the idea of the French windows. I think it would be a very nice improvement to the apartment. It makes the back of the apartment feel more like another front. And I think that it's an appropriate solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
May, you're unmuted, but we also have a raised hand from Michelle.
Saida, why don't we go through all the committee members and then we'll come back to Michelle.
Okay. May, confirm unmuting. Okay, we can come back to May. And we will go to Harris.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do have the Zoom tool now. And I'm reading the heights of the windows, which are on these drawings. I could read them to you now, or you could look at them when you're in your committee.
You could tell us now, Peter.
Yes, okay. So the existing windows are 7 feet, 7 1/8 inches tall. Our proposed addition adds 2 feet, 1 5/8 inches. So the resulting window, the French doors are then 9 feet, 8 inches tall within an apartment that has 12-foot ceilings.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Is May ready to comment, Saida?
No, I guess she doesn't want to speak, so I went to Marco.
Okay. Okay, very good.
Thank you, Jane. I think in general terms, I find reasonable the proposal. My concern is obviously we need a master plan. Otherwise, there's going to be a mismatch of all the designs on the rear facade. This is a secondary facade visible. Usually, I don't know how a problem when it's not visible. And the only situation is, yes, is to increase more comfort to the owner of the apartment. And I agree with that part. And I think the multiple light windows, I think is appropriate in this case, make an improvement. But I'm still struggling with the rest of the facade because we have to see as a whole. We cannot see as just only one floor. We have to see the whole floor because from the bottom or from the street level, so from Fifth Avenue, nobody said, look, just only this floor horizontally. They're gonna look horizontal and vertical. And that will create a little bit problem in these beautiful windows. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Do you want me to respond to that?
Sure.
Thank you. What's fascinating about this building, among other things, is that the Temple Emmanuel built a screen wall, which is amazing. It's a limestone wall, almost 18 inches thick, which sits against the south wall of the apartment house. And it has this arched screen, which does pretty much obscure the fenestration within the courtyard below the floor we're talking about. So it's very unusual. I just wanted to point that out.
So we need a better presentation. I'm sorry to say that. Thank you. You are very skillful professional, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimberly?
Thank you, Saida. Thank you, Jane. I don't have any further questions. My questions have already been answered. And just based on what I've seen, I think I don't have any objections to this presentation. I can support it.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Okay, we can go to Valerie Mason, confirm and muting.
I'm going to pass just because I was not here at the beginning, so I don't feel appropriate to respond. So, but thank you for calling on me.
Thank you. Okay, so back to Michelle.
Okay, so
Thank
yes,
you.
Christina's not here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the question I wanted to ask was this. We had discussed as a committee that when part of a presentation is approved at the staff level and the other part comes to us, that we would ask to see the whole, even though we're not voting or have no input on the other part. And I'm going on that, on our general consensus that that would be a good idea. And as a matter of fact, we were supposed to write a letter asking that that be the case. I don't know if that ever happened. But with that in mind, if you have that, can you show us the face? Well, it's the front of the building where the new windows are being proposed and dealt with on staff level, so that we can just see what the continuity is.
Unfortunately, I do not have access from this file to pull up those elevations, but we're happy to share that complete package with you. But all of those windows are being replaced in kind, but we can absolutely provide you with whatever you want. And if it's that portion of it, we can do that.
Is that, are they those divided lights?
Yes, yes.
What are they? 6/6, 8/8?
So the bigger ones are 8/8.
So they're different sizes?
No, these are all the same size as you wrap around the building.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, I know we've had applications where contiguous to the exact application, there's been something that's been approved at the staff level. These windows are being replaced in kind, so it's a little bit different. David, did you want to comment? I'm sure you do.
Yes, I do. I think it's very thoughtfully done. Peter, if you could put up the elevations, that would be best.
Sorry. This one or the elevations of the
elevations that show the new windows, and take it a little further. Take it down just. That's good. That's
okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Number one, we've all agreed it's a secondary facade, so whether it would even come into a master plan is an issue. But the fact of the matter is that it's a unique condition, as Peter has pointed out, and I think he has taken advantage of it for the apartment that he's working on. Number one, there's a little bit of a serendipity there with what's happened on the 9th floor. And I think Peter has taken his cues from that. And I think it's good both for the 12th floor, for the 8th floor apartment, and also for the building itself. I would also say that apparently these windows are similar in the sense of their multi-lights to the windows that exist. So there is still a strong relationship there. As far as the symmetry goes, that's just not understanding what Peter's doing as an architect. You don't have to be perfectly symmetrical. You don't have to be perfectly repetitive, laterally, horizontally, and vertically. If you take the east side, where the windows are already a single window and a double window, and then you think about the court, you think about the desire for light on the west-facing windows, what Peter's done is reflected it. And the fact that it's not perfectly symmetrical with the rest of the building, it is symmetrical within the court. And I think it's artfully done, and I think it's going to be wonderful to see it from Fifth Avenue. Last but not least, he's got plenty of room between the bottom of his windows and the top of the windows below. And as he points out, they're 12-foot ceilings. You can see that the windows above, which I assume are similar to what Peter is doing, certainly the bottoms are the same relative to the bottoms of Peter's windows as Peter's windows are to the bottom, to the tops of the windows below him. So I just think that we're making much ado about nothing. I think it's beautifully done. I think that we should applaud it and we should approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I
Thank you.
will just add my comment that I agree with all of David's comments. It's a beautiful restrained building, just gorgeous from the outside. And I think the idea of putting in the French doors with the Juliet decorative balconies is just a stunning idea and will just be beautiful to look at when you're across the street on Fifth Avenue, on the park side of Fifth Avenue. So I agree with David that we should commend the architect for coming up with this just elegant solution. Even if he is dropping the sills, it will let in more interior light. And French doors are so beautiful wherever you see them on any apartment building. So I think we're ready for a resolution. Does somebody want to formulate one?
Gail, confirm a meeting.
I would suggest that approved as presented because of the elegance of this thoughtful design. And Jane, I'm sure you can put in the appropriate words to the resolution.
I agree, David.
So is that a second, Gail?
I'll do it as a second, yes.
Thank you. So I think we can go to the vote, a roll call vote.
Okay, just give me 1 second to unmute everyone.
I want to make, am I still unmuted? I want to make another comment that we often get applications from where the applicant has hired an extremely prominent architectural firm to come and present to us, but rarely do we get the principal from the firm. So I think we have to commend the architect for coming in person himself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ashby,
Yes.
Gail Barron,
Yes,
Michelle Birnbaum,
Yes, the measurements and the ceiling height was very, very informative in terms of proportion.
Alita Camp,
Yes, and also I'll just second Jane. Thank you, Peter, for coming. It's very refreshing and welcome.
Thank you.
Anthony Cohn,
Yes.
May, okay, I guess we're having some trouble with me unmuting. Marco,
I hear you.
Oh, yes.
okay.
I'm not voting. Remember, I came too late.
Kimberly,
Yes.
David,
Yes,
Jane,
Yes.
I would suggest that Valerie is not an abstention. She's a not voting for cause.
Well, no, she's just not present. So we don't
Well,
even,
then she's just not present, right?
yeah,
good.
she's not present. Thank you. And May, we still have,
yeah, chat.
well, I think we can go on to the next resolution and perhaps, or next application.
May can decide whether it's unanimous or not.
So thank you very much for coming, Peter.
Thank
and-
you very much for your support.
It looks like Gail has her hand raised.
So I think, David, we can go to the next application.
Okay, the next application, 210 East 62nd Street. This is a repeat. Arctangent Architecture, a neo-Grec style building designed by F.S. Barnes and constructed in 1870. Application is for roof addition, rear yard extension, and interior renovation. So is the architect here?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
And can we have your name? Who is it?
Keitaro Day,
Can you spell it for me?
Keitaro, last name
Keitaro.
and last name Ney, Nei.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
So yeah, so anyways, basically as a courtesy to the community and to the board, we wanted to give you a sort of update of what's been going on since our last presentation back in the fall. We've been working with Landmark staff to come up with a solution for the roof addition that's being proposed. And one of the things that we came up with was to consider a flat roof scheme as opposed to the one that is built as of now. And so what we did was a mock-up of this flat roof scheme was actually constructed, and we worked with Landmark's staff to determine how feasible this is compared to what is existing. And we basically came to the conclusion that we're not going to go with the flat roof scheme. So we went through a sort of exercise in studying that option. But now we're going back to the original scheme, but with some changes. And we just want to share with you to give you an update of that. Can I
share the screen?
Yeah.
Yes, you have the ability. Go ahead.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, so can everybody see the screen, I guess?
Yes.
So, so I'm just going to quickly just go through this because I think everyone knows what this project is about.
Not all of us. Some of us are new to it.
All right. Basically, a while back, we did get a project approved by Landmarks. However, the roof addition that was built deviated from the original approval. So we're going back to the Landmarks and to the committee to present the as-built conditions for approval. This is a sort of a sideline diagram showing the area of visibility. Basically, the roof addition is visible along this area of 3rd Avenue. Let's see, oops. Sorry. Around 3rd Avenue and this portion of 62nd Street. So, go to the next page. So basically, again, as I mentioned before, we are going back to the original scheme, but one of the issues that has come up is there was an issue with one of our adjacent property neighbors. I think this is 208 East 62nd Street. Some issue that's come up with whether the roof addition encroaches upon the neighbor. And I think the ownership and the neighbor have been working directly on trying to resolve this issue. So, so that's one update. The other, let me just go through this. This is a section of the original building before pre-construction. There used to be a big elevator shaft on the roof from prior. This is all being removed, and this was the proposed roof addition. The next page. Again, the same proposed roof addition, and this was approved by Landmarks. And then the as-built deviated from the approved design, and you can see a superimposition of the approved versus what was built. And we're now trying to get that as-built approved. One other, go to the next one. Yes. one other issue that we've been working with Landmarks on is the way the rear portion of the addition was built. There was this kind of stepping that occurred, and the stepping was above the original cornice line of the rear. So the close-up. We're working with Landmarks to correct this condition. And what we're proposing now is to have a straight rear facade that's set back approximately 3 feet from the rear property line. And the original cornice line being preserved and matching the neighbor's cornice line in the back. So this is all to do with that. One other issue that has come up is that the third floor is slightly higher than what was anticipated. So as a way to remedy that issue, we're keeping the top portion of the parapet at the as approved height, and we're proposing an additional glass railing set back to provide that safety. So that was one other area that we were looking into. And this is just the proposed elevations, so that really hasn't changed much. Yeah. And the owner is still proposing to fully restore the historic portion of the front facade, restoring all of the window surrounds and all of the original detailing. This is the rear facade. And again, this is trying to preserve the originally approved top of parapet as before, but with an additional clear glass railing setback. And one other thing we just want to clarify is because the as-built floor level on the third floor is a bit higher than what was originally anticipated, the window height of the third floor windows, they will be lowered slightly. I think there would be a foot shorter than before. However, the header and the cornice line will be at the historic height as before. It's just that the sill height has changed. Just zoom back out a little bit. This is just a photo showing the original mock-up and then what is there today. This was the original approved design. Let me see if I can zoom in here. We had proposed a zinc-clad roof addition with a perforated metal shutter system, and we're keeping that as before. But the roof addition has changed slightly. So, and these are just photos of prior existing conditions and the roof addition as it's currently stands. These were just further renderings of what we think the final roof addition will look like as proposed. Photos of the front. So the front, you can't really see the roof addition at all, and you can't really see it from this angle. But as you start to step back, you'll be able to see a little bit. This is the proposed railing in the front and the proposed HVAC condensers in the front. none of which can be seen from the street. These are the images of the existing roof addition. More photos of the back. These are sort of more detailed photos of the side views of the roof addition as it currently sits. And as you can see, this is the area that's going to be corrected, that it will become a straight facade going down to the historic cornice line in the back. And this is the facade, side facade from the other side. And again, as we mentioned, this will be a straight line back. And finally, this is the roof addition as visible from 3rd Avenue. So this is taken at an angle, and this is taken from the side. And basically that's what we're proposing.
You go back to the front elevation and section for a minute.
Sure. Front elevation. So here's the front elevation.
So what you're saying is the front elevation is now going to be identical?
It's
close,
not,
but it's not
it's not
perfect.
identical to what was approved, but it's you know, the design cues are similar, I suppose.
And what is the striated element behind that? Is that a glass parapet?
Yeah, let's zoom
Can
in
you go?
here. Yeah, so there will be a glass, a clear glass railing in the front.
That's because the roof level is higher now?
It is, let me see if I can show you in section. This is what it looks like currently in section. Right. So, you know, for safety, obviously, we need to have this glass railing. But this is not visible from any public thoroughfare.
That's what it is now. And what was it originally?
Originally, there was no glass. There's no railing whatsoever. I mean, this is the original.
That's the original approved.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yes. Let me zoom into the original approved. This is the original approved.
Right, because so it looks like the condensers, where the condensers are sitting, that level has been raised.
Correct. So this floor height is now a little bit higher than what was in the original approved drawings.
So you said the 3rd floor was higher and the 4th floor is also higher?
Correct.
Okay. And that's what forces us into a glass parapet in the front?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
want to understand what was done.
Yeah. I mean, we did mock up the glass railing. I don't know if you saw it in that photo, but this is the railing mocked up, and we weren't able to see it on the street.
So if you were to draw a sideline from across the street, you wouldn't see the railing?
We couldn't see it from any public thoroughfare, even 3rd Avenue, we couldn't see it. I guess it's because it's set back far enough. And it's set back far enough and it's too low. And same with the AC unit, which was mocked up.
Well, the AC units, I agree. Okay. It would have been, you know, typically we would see a sideline diagram, which is usually required by the Landmarks Preservation Commission.
I thought we have one. Yeah, it's actually, I mean, we have it on all our sections. But you can see this dashed line is the sideline diagram, as if we were standing across the street.
Okay, that's what I asked for. That's.
Okay, yeah.
Glass is not invisible, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted clarity on how you're handling the front.
Sure.
Do you have anything else in your presentation?
No, this is it.
Okay, well, thank you for coming back. I think we will go to the public. So, Saida, let's see if there are people who would like to speak.
Okay, James, confirm unmuting. I can't hear you. I'm not sure why.
Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is James Solomon. I live with my wife, Benita, and our 2 children at 2.
It's still hard to hear. I don't know if you can do anything about it.
Sure. Good evening. My name is James Solomon. Is that better? Is that better?
Better, little better.
My name is James Solomon, and I live with my wife, Benita, and our 2 children at 212 East 62nd Street. Unfortunately, we've had a front row seat to the disaster that is 210 East 62nd Street, as we live immediately next door. We have also endured much of the direct brunt of this applicant's misconduct and misrepresentations over the past 5 years. I also wish to add that I am a former member of Manhattan Community Board 2, and CB2, like CB8, is also a landmark district. And on CB2, I came to learn firsthand the extent to which a historic district's survival is in no small part dependent on the advocacy of its community boards. The last line of CB8's October 14th, 2020 letter to LPC reads, quote, "Therefore be it resolved that the Landmarks Preservation Commission fully investigate this project and revoke its certificate of appropriateness." To be clear, we believe revoking 210's C of A is and must continue to be the position of CB8. Nothing has changed to suggest otherwise. In fact, things have only gotten worse with 210 East 62nd Street since this application and this applicant last appeared before CB8. Last September 2020, this applicant came before this committee and misrepresented or outright lied in writing about major aspects of its project, about the overall height of its as-built structure, about the height and width of its current as-built rooftop addition, and about the height and size of its planned rear yard extension. 210's misrepresentations about its as-built were particularly bizarre, given that the as-built can easily be disproven in the field. In addition, 210's September submission conveniently omitted consequential details such as 210 illegally, dangerously excavated beneath its immediate neighbor's foundations without notification, and 210 built its penthouse over the property lines of both neighbors. Moreover, the applicant has never attempted with CB8 or the community to account for its 5 stop work orders, which led DOB to shut down 210's construction for the past 3.5 years since December 2017. These 5 stop work orders are for egregious and often dangerous violations: for illegal excavation, for underpinning without authorization and notification, for building over property lines, for maintaining a dangerous sidewalk shed for years. Additionally, as will be noted by other speakers, 210 has more than 60 DOB violations and nearly $400,000 in unpaid fines. In the past 9 months, since 210 last appeared at CB8, 210 has accrued 19 additional DOB violations in excess of $100,000 in unpaid penalties. One might think an applicant seeking community approvals would do everything within its power to be a good neighbor, but it has been the complete opposite with 210. My wife and I respectfully submitted to this committee's co-chairs a written summary of our concerns regarding 210's current May 2021 application. In my remaining time, I'd like to flag some items of particular concern regarding 210's proposal today. On page 3, we show that 210's current massive as-built rooftop structure is considerably taller and bulkier than what was approved. It should be removed or rebuilt. On page 4, we point out that the amount 210 raised its roof was never part of the approved C of A. At a minimum, the differential should be reduced from 210's rooftop structure. On page 5, We cite that 210's built rear wall is deeper than what was approved with a bump up from a floor below. The entire rear section of 210, as we detail in our written submission, should be demolished. On page 6, we address 210's misrepresentation to CB8 and LPC about the size and scale of its rear yard extension. 210 having raised but not accurately represented its floor heights. 210 should not be permitted a 3-story extension 34 feet 4 inches high, 17 feet deep, and approximately 18 feet wide. To put this in proper context, 210's rear yard extension would be nearly 150% larger than typical extensions in the Treadwell Farm Historic District. This afternoon, we also sent to this committee's co-chairs an addendum to our written submission based on page 10 of 210's September 2020 presentation and page 11 of 210's May 2021 full presentation, which we received today. It appears 210 brazenly went ahead and built a penthouse that is nearly identical to what LPC disapproved back in 2016. Almost exactly 5 years ago in April 2016, my wife and I, along with our architect, David Atchison, appeared before this committee with our C of A application for our residence at 212 East 62nd Street. It was just 1 month after 210 had presented its plan to this committee. In stark contrast to 210's proposal, we at 212 did not request a penthouse addition. Our proposed rear extension at 212 was contextual, step back, 12 feet long on the ground floor and 6 feet on the next 2 floors, akin to other extensions on our block within Treadwell Farm. Compare this to 210's unprecedented for Treadwell Farm glass layered rear extension, 17 feet on every floor, originally proposed to rise up 4 stories, although LPC reduced it to 3 stories, and yet 210 then went ahead and raised the elevation of its 3rd floor without approval. Additionally, 210's rear extension has a steel shutter system affixed to the rear facade, which when folded out extends another 3 feet into the rear yard, further blocking its neighbors' air and light. During those spring 2016 meetings, 210 presented CB8 with a mere 4 pages to review its unprecedented proposal. A month later, 212, we submitted a comprehensive 22-page written report detailing our far more modest and contextual modification. There's simply no question 210's utter lack of transparency in 2016 about its intentions and CB8's confusion about what was actually being proposed helped lead to this moment. Moreover, in stark contrast to 210, 212 actually constructed what was approved. 212 constructed what was approved. We moved in and committed to being good neighbors. As for 210, that's an entirely different story. Members of this committee.
James, I hope you're getting close to the end. I've given you a lot of liberty.
You did indeed. I'm wrapping up, I promise. This is my grand finale. Members of this committee, it is never too late to right a wrong. 210's rear yard extension has not been built at all. The original rear facade is as it was in 2016, except it is now open to the elements at every floor. 210's vastly overbuilt rooftop addition, while framed, is far from finished, not to mention it currently rests over the neighbor's property lines. In fact, the east and west walls of the penthouse will have to come down anyway as they encroach on the neighbor's property. And 210's rear and front cornices are unfinished as well as non-compliant. The 5-year-long pattern of misconduct and misrepresentations by 210 is more than ample cause for CB8 to persist in calling on LPC to revoke 210's certificate of appropriateness. To be frank, we have little understanding of the conversations being had between 210 and LPC, which is worrisome to say the least. But make no mistake, there is a method to 210's madness. Build as they like, seek approval later, and assume the community will either not be paying attention or give up. It's not only our hope, it's also our belief that CB8 and this committee in particular is paying close attention and remains steadfast in its commitment to historic preservation and to advocate on behalf of our community. Thank you so much for your time, for your extended time and consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public?
Bonnie, confirm unmuting.
I should be unmuted.
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes.
So my name is Bonnie Pope, and I live at 220 East 62nd Street, a few blocks down from 210. And I've been a resident of the Treadwell Farms Historic District for 30 years. I'm speaking today to register my objection to the proposed renovations for 210 East 62nd. In 2017, its current owner, a house flipper, began renovations on the property. Those renovations have been horribly and selfishly mismanaged. Since 2017, our neighborhood has had to endure the following: unsafe and careless conditions. The developer of 210 has treated the safety of our neighborhood with indifference. I have seen boards perched precariously on scaffolding dozens of feet above the ground. The door to the site is cheap plywood. It's unstable, unsecure, and makes our historic Treadwell Farms look like a neighborhood suffering from neglect. And windows are even worse, with plywood coverings that become dislodged, meaning anyone could enter the house and then gain access to the houses in the neighborhood through the rear entries without being seen. Simply put, the site is being horribly mismanaged. Garbage is another example. Since 2017, the current owner of 210 has allowed garbage of all kinds to amass in the street in front of his property. It's become a dump for food waste, broken glass, dog mess, a constant. We've called 311 regularly. A number of tickets have been issued, and the problem still persists. At times, the neighbors of 210 have had to take it upon themselves to clean up the owner of 210's mess. The conduct of the owner of 210 has been dangerous and neglectful. Given the last 4+ years, there's absolutely no reason to think matters will improve this go round. I encourage you to protect our neighborhood and deny this application. Thank you.
Anyone else, Saida?
Yes, Carter, you're unmuted.
Thank you. Is my volume okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Carter Potash. I promise to keep this short. I've lived at 208 East 62nd Street next door to the developer's property for 38 years. The illegal encroachment of his rooftop addition onto my roof, as proven by a survey, continues without change. It is true that I have spoken recently to the developer, but he either denies it's an encroachment or claims it is normal to encroach like this. It is not. In summary, he's not willing to remove the encroachment. The views of the back of the addition just show just how unattractive the addition would be and how much bigger it is than was approved by LPC. The schematic showing all the historic neighborhood's extensions is misleading and doesn't adequately show how much larger this extension is as compared to any extensions of the past decades ever since the historic district was established. Importantly, the pictures provided of the views of the rooftop addition from 62nd Street and from 3rd Avenue are grossly, in my opinion, grossly misleading. If any of you have stood in those areas, you would have seen how visible and intrusive the addition is to the view and how overwhelming it is. Please don't reward this developer for breaching his approvals, and please continue to seek the termination of the developer's approvals in their entirety. Thank you very much.
Violet,
Saida,
confirm
how many people do we have, Saida?
We have 2 more.
2 more. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I will also be brief. My name is Violet. I'm the Community Board 8 liaison for Councilmember Powers' office. In October of last year, Councilmember Powers, in addition to State Senator Liz Krueger and Borough President Gil Brewer, wrote a letter to LPC requesting that they disapprove of any application submitted by 210 East 62nd Street that goes beyond the height and bulk of what LPC approved in 2017. Further, they asked that LPC investigate the construction of the rooftop addition that was built following 2017 approval and further utilize the Commission's enforcement capability if wrongdoing is found. In light of this, we hope that the committee continues to just consider this position and take it into account when passing any resolution regarding this location And I appreciate everyone's time very much.
Violet, did CB8 get a copy of that letter?
Did CB8 or can CB8? I'm not sure if they did, but I'm happy to email it right now.
Please email it.
Sure.
Thank you. Saida, next.
Yep, Julianne, confirm unmuting.
Yes, hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm speaking today on as president of the Treadwell Farm Historic District Association on behalf of many residents, neighbors, and our executive committee to discuss 210, its longstanding hazard and its blight to our neighborhood. We want to thank, first of all, LPC and CB8 for all the time that you spent reviewing materials and the materials that have been sent prior to today. But frankly, not much has changed in almost a year since your last hearing. Last October, the community board voted unanimously to rescind its prior approval of this owner's submitted plans upon the consideration of the clear and present danger the owner continues to present. The owner continues here to present as-built drawings for CB8's further consideration, and even as it flagrantly refuses to correct and satisfy an alarming number of hazardous DOB violations and fines, specifically 81 continue to be outstanding, as well as 2 years of unpaid taxes to our city, especially which is in greatest need at this time. That money would be put to good use. We do not believe this owner should be afforded further time or consideration until these violations are certified as corrected. Violation fines are paid and taxes are rendered to our city. We must request that CBA deny all such requests that have been put forth for us today. And we presume that this approval for penetrating our historical district and the importance of our district confirming roof lines and grossly overscaled rear extension that will forever violate the uniformity of our privacy and the district significant features, including our gardens. The full work stoppage order has remained in place since 12/12/2017. The owner refuses to cure these violations. The project remains incomplete and is grossly out of compliance with its unauthorized illegal excavations, as people talked about, its rooftop addition, which is partially constructed at this point with height and visibility exceeding approvals. And the district and immediate neighbors remain vulnerable, 2 of which have been on the call today, with an out of context addition that is on top of their roof lines and that has not been resolved. Even though the architect today said that they are in discussion, it has not been resolved on either side. I also would like to just mention that the rear extension has not been built, but for which the demolition in the photograph sent in prior substantially exceeds that which LPC approved. And I would want to point out one note, and I know, David, you are the architect here, you can look at this, but looking at all those drawings, let's be clear that the rear is starting, if you add the numbers, at 3.2 feet higher than what it is there. So it's not a little bit, it's not, as the architect said today, a little bit different. It's 3.2 feet. That's pretty significant in my book. And the cornice has been removed and can be put at roof lines, but the uniformity of this district for which we are known will be destroyed. And I did send to Community Board 8 some visuals that maybe you can put up right now, because although it's supposedly not visual from the street, these photographs that I took are outside the corner building across the street. And then I don't know if you can pull up the other photographs, which are taken directly across, just seeing the outline. So I know we heard it's not visible, but here you can see it through the spring leaves on the trees. It is visible. And in my opinion, and our community's opinion, we really are asking and begging that CB8 formally revoke the approval project of this request, and that LPC should revoke the entire certificate of appropriateness for the application for 210 East 62nd Street. We've suffered enough and we are not making any progress. And the visuals that were shown today by the architect further prove that. Thank you for your time and all your consideration. We really appreciate all that you do for our community. And we hope that we can get to a point where this is put behind us. But at this point, it is a complete disaster. And as one young 5-year-old said to me the other day, what happened? Did a tornado hit that house? I mean, it is so terrible that that is what a 5-year-old says when it passes it. So please, in whatever regard we can do, we ask for your help. This should not continue. And, you know, it really is a blight to our neighborhood. And really, as preservationists, as citizens, and as neighbors, we hope that you can put a stop to this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Saida, on the public.
There's one more.
One more.
Confirm unmuting.
Yes, hi. My name is Eric Altman. I live at 244 East 62nd Street. And I have a question for the architect. If the original plans that were approved by the Landmark Commission stated that the roof could be at a certain height, then why was it built higher than that? Is it the failure of the architect? Is it the failure of the contractor? And if it hasn't been remedied in this long of a time, how can we trust that anything that will be approved going forward will remain within the lines of what's approved?
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so let's see, there's several things that have come up as raised by several of you. So I want to sort of give you some general responses. First of all, just so we're clear, that I was not made aware of when the construction started until, you know, much of this was already built. So I came in a little bit later, and I'm basically here to make sure that we can figure out a solution to these issues. And I do want to say that we stand by the drawings that we presented today. We made some very careful surveys and photographs and so forth. And we do stand by all of the drawings and the measurements shown on these drawings today. Also to clarify, I think someone had shown a photo, a recent photo of the site showing what looked to be a visible condition from the front of the building. I just want to clarify that that was our flat roof scheme that we were considering and are now abandoning. So that, you know, I believe the owner is in the process of having that mock-up removed and should not be part of the consideration of discussions today, because we are not proposing this flat roof scheme. So I just wanted to clarify a few points that we feel the drawings that we presented today are accurate. We did so many site measurements, including myself personally. And, you know, we've worked very closely with Landmarks to make sure that we are clear as possible as to what was approved and what is being proposed. So I just want to make that clear, and you know, that's.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll go to the committee.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go in the reverse order.
Okay. Marco, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I was planning to ask 3 questions, but you already answered one, which is the picture of Mrs. Julienne Bertagnes. I think you clarified, and thank you so much for this clarification. But having this kind of problem, you shouldn't retain something that create even more confusion than already you are facing right now. These 2 questions I have, and then my statement. What is the depth of the rear facade?
The depth?
Yeah, the proposed depth.
So it's going to the 30-foot setback line. And
So you say you have 30 foot, and that's it?
no, it's not a 30-foot extension.
No, you have the depth of 30 feet, the depth of the rear yard. Is that correct?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
required by code. Yes.
Yeah, I know that. So the second one is, can you explain a little bit the metal screen that you put in the rear facade? It's unclear for me.
It's a powder coated perforated metal shutter system. So there is glass windows behind it, and you know, on a nice day you can open everything up and
It's like a screen with covering the windows in some way.
yeah, it's just a screen, like a lattice. I think that was, you know, always part of the original proposal, and so that hasn't changed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, having an obligation to preserve the unique scale and proportion of the historical Threadwood historical district, I found it disturbing first to build and then coming to ask for an amendment as construction bill. Usually that happens in the Department of Building Regulation, but not in the historical district. And I think this is disturbing. You come and you said, I'm going to make it taller, and we didn't apply that one. But you should come first to the community, to the landmarks, get an approval, and then do the construction. I think it's wrong, this reverse process, and that creates serious problem. The second part is I reviewed the drawings that you sent to us, and I found a lack of coordination of the dimensions between what is existing and what is proposed. When in the existing, you propose some dimensions, and then the proposed, you provide another dimension, which basically create more speculation or more confusion in this process. And or it's either poorly dimensioned by yourself, or maybe it's combined. Whatever it is, I think you have to be very careful in that part. Yes, the project is on hold in the Department of Buildings. I checked. Yes, you have 81 violations combined between ECV and DOB violations. But again, you need to resolve this issue in order to correct the violations. I know that. The second part, what I found is once it doesn't match something that is a big issue for this district, the bulk, and that's what it is. Even that is not visible, as you prove in all side views across the street. You said this, even this taller, I think probably 2.5 or more feet taller than you are approved, is still not visible, but you should start camera here, establish the dialogue between the community and us and landmarks. And I find wrong your proposal, first do it and then camera here. And I had to address just only the merits of the application, and I'm not going to address the other issue of construction because DOB has been properly put the violation to your building, and that you have to deal with DOB. Thank you.
Thank you. Harrison, confirm and muting.
Hi, yes.
Confirm and muting.
Sorry, yeah, I thought I was unmuted there. Am I good now?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so first and foremost, thank you very much for the thoughtful presentation. I think we all appreciate it. You know, I think that to echo a lot of what the community members said, you know, there's this issue with the violations, right, and kind of flipping the script then on the community board, which I think is really something that, you know, is not permissible. And I think that, you know, something that has to be changed going forward. I know, you know, it's pretty hard to look back and say, oh, because of that, you know, we're not going to move forward. You know, you can't do anything going forward. I think these issues need to be solved, right, especially the tax ones. But, you know, besides that, it looks fairly good to me. So thank you again for the presentation.
Okay, let's go to Anthony.
Hi. Okay. I agree with Marco that your presentation was actually somewhat confusing, believe it or not, and partly because of the way that it's mostly labeling. But I do have a number of questions that in a way are almost observations. You keep referring in your presentation to us as these being small differences, little difference. And the small differences are that, in fact, the third floor level is 1 foot 7 inches higher than what was approved. The fourth floor level is 2 foot 7 inches higher than what was approved. And the roof is 2 foot 6 inches higher than what was approved. The actual, those are not small differences. And I don't see any way that I can let that go. You know, if you think about the scale of it, this building is 57 feet high, and if it's 2 foot 6 inches, it's 2 foot 6 inches too tall. It's 3% too tall. So if this were a 1,000 foot building, it would be, 30 feet too tall. I mean, there's a sort of, 2 foot 6 is a lot for a building this size. And I understand that, or at least I think that you've sort of come in at the middle after this was already built. But, at some point you just advise your client to take it down. There's a certain ethics in trying to, it's okay to try, but I don't think it's okay to make this kind of request. It's sort of, I know it's not intentional, or at least I presume it's not intentional, but it's insulting. And finally, I think we said this as a group last time, the rear yard addition is just too big. It doesn't make any sense in this particular on this particular block, so I will vote against this. And I do agree with the parenthetically, I do agree with the neighbors and with our previous request that Landmarks pull the previous approval. Thank you.
Alita, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. I don't even know where to begin because I find this so appalling and so shameful that the applicant could come back. We disapproved this in September or October, and we did even more. We asked the Landmarks Preservation Commission to evaluate and to revoke the permits already given, to build without consideration, without acknowledgement, without regard for approvals, and to just keep going and then to ask for permission to keep it would send a message to every unscrupulous, because we've dealt with inadvertent and we've worked with inadvertent mistakes, but I don't for a minute believe that this is inadvertent. It has sat like this since our reevaluation of it back in the fall, and you're still seeking to excuse the construction and to ask for approvals. So again, I think and I didn't finish that thought, it sends a message to every unscrupulous applicant out there to just get approvals and then build. And I guess the approvals make it easy for the DOB to be able to say, well, Landmarks approved it, so they can't come back at you in a historic district and criticize you for not going to Landmarks. But really, what's the point of going to Landmarks if they give an approval and then you just disregard it, not once, not twice, but 3 times? There are issues about encroachment on the neighbors, and now a neighbor is saying that you don't really think you encroached it. That should be something that's pretty easy to figure out. And I don't even understand the language of this meeting, which is somehow this got built taller, and somehow that got built bigger, and somehow this is now 2 feet taller without taking any responsibility whatsoever for it. You're the architect of record, and there comes a point where people have to take responsibility. There is no reason that this should remain constructed like this. It's a pat on the back and a nod of approval, and it has nothing, my statements here have nothing to do with failure to pay taxes, failure to pay fines, continuing to rack up DOB violations, a continuous stop work order. It has nothing to do with that. It has simply to do with the fact that there were approvals given by Landmarks and they were ignored repeatedly and consistently. And there is something really wrong with that. So I would fully and completely, and I can't think of other words, support another resolution asking for Landmarks to revoke every single permit that was given on this project. When behavior is this egregious, I think it does not deserve to be rewarded. Thank you. Oh, I just want to add, Saida, before you mute me again, that I was chair of the board at the time this came up in the fall, and there were numerous letters from various members of the community decrying what's been going on here, not just from the adjacent properties, but from other people in the community. So I'm well aware of the history of this project, and I just more than not being able to support it. So thank you. And now I'll be quiet, Saida.
Michelle?
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell you, I really don't know where to begin. I also can't figure out whose best interest this is. I mean, there's a valuable piece of property standing there. Now we're hearing that it's completely open in the back. It's open to the weather. I don't know. That has to be causing tremendous deterioration of the property. I don't know who benefits from that, least of all the owner. I don't know how much as an architect you represent that owner. I don't know what responsibility you have for the DOB violations, even if you weren't architect when they were issued, you are now. It seems to me professionally, you should seek to have those violations eliminated. I can't even comment on it. I know that even if this were in perfect shape, I don't think this board would approve that screen system in the back, because I remember an extensive discussion about that. Nobody, as I recall, was particularly happy about it. But this project is a mess. And for me, I would like to hear from you and the builder as to what the remediation is here. It sounds like this committee at this moment in time, I may be wrong, we're going to take a vote, and so you'll know what we think, but it sounds like it's inclined with a disapproval in light of the community letters and the letters of the elected officials, and everybody seems to be completely discouraged and disappointed in this property, and it's going on since 2017. I think the next time you come before us should be not for us to hear, not for you to present to us for our approval, but for us to hear from you and what your plans are for remediation. If this keeps sitting in limbo like this, the neighborhood is living with a disaster. The owner is living with a disaster. It just doesn't seem to benefit anybody. So I look forward to hearing about all the remediation, whether or not it addresses the certificate, the appropriateness, which I understand is our purview. But sometimes there are just greater issues. And I think this is one of those times. So I hope there's something productive that can come out of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail?
Well, I certainly join with all of my colleagues. I'm just astounded that anyone would get approval, go ahead and disregard exactly what was allowed by LPD, and then say, well, I'm going to build anyway, and come back to the community board and expect with a mea culpa that we're going to say, well, it's okay, it's already there. Frankly, I think that you should be required to take everything down that is not in compliance with what was allowed by LPD. And I certainly cannot support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like May. Did we lose May? Okay, I think we did. Elizabeth, confirm unmuting.
Yes, I'm just as astonished as everybody else is. This makes no sense to me. I can't see the point of shooting yourself in the left foot and then deciding, all right, I'll shoot myself in my right foot. This is the most, I wish I could read minds because I can't understand what's going on here. Of course, we're all going to vote against it once, we stop fainting in our chairs here. So I can't add to the astonishment of anybody else. I'm just as astonished as they are.
Thank you. Kimberly?
Thank you, Saida. I think Alita used the exact word that I was going to use, which was, this is egregious. I've been rereading the minutes from our September meeting just to refamiliarize myself with the exact points we had made. And in addition to all of the points raised about the size of everything we talk about in the resolution from September, about just still, regardless of the sizing of things, it's still not appropriate or contextual. We make points about the symmetry of things. That crazy nonsense in the backyard is a direct reflection of that. So like everyone else has said, I don't believe that I could approve this resolution, or this presentation rather.
Thank you. Valerie?
Hi, thank you. I guess first I had a question for our co-chairs. Since the last meeting we had, I think there was some question as to what power we actually had, because many of the items that are being discussed don't go to the historical nature or the landmarks piece of the puzzle. So David, can you maybe just refresh? I mean, could we ask landmarks to pull this applicant to pull this? What is that? What are we really doing here is what I'm asking.
We can only, technically, we can only talk about context and appropriateness. I've given a lot of leeway and a lot of liberty to the comments because it is such, in quotes, an egregious situation. And I think that in the September resolution, although we went a little bit beyond what we normally would do with respect to appropriateness, but quite frankly, what's been here, what is here is not appropriate because it's not what it was approved. It's as simple as that. So we'll have to figure out how we're going to handle the resolution again this time. To a large extent, it's going to be repetitive of what we did in September, unless somebody winds up with a, suggesting a different resolution than we go forward with. But in principle, it is not appropriate and it's not contextual. It does not agree with what was approved by landmarks originally, and strictly within those confines. If we choose as a committee to disapprove it, we can. However, we went a little bit further to acknowledge the community concerns in what we said to landmarks in September, and we may choose to do that again.
And just for the record, did we receive any response from the resolution that was passed back in September to landmarks?
I personally did not see anything. Since Alita was our chair at that time, she may be able to illuminate or tell us if anything was received.
Nothing was received, but we had that meeting where they said they were investigating, they were looking into this, they were talking to the architect. They didn't understand the architect's involvement, but no, they had not responded. And based on what the architect said this evening, it sounds as though they had not followed our advice and revoked their permits.
Yeah. Well, I think Violet Gear from Councilman Powers' office referred to the fact that there were elected officials who also asked for the investigation. So, I mean, I just don't understand. Is there an actual investigation underway?
Not to our knowledge. We can certainly ask the Landmarks Preservation Commission if there is. I don't know whether the architect of record, I see where he's moved on my screen, whether he can tell us if he knows what's happening with landmarks, other than the fact that they're still talking about this project.
I have no knowledge of any investigation or anything like that. We have been working with them at staff level on various, proposals.
Okay.
Can I ask the architect, sorry, David, I'm a little perplexed. I've done a lot of renovation. You seem not to have any communication with the person who owns this project on a regular basis. I find that a little bit unusual. I mean, how often do you talk to this person or whoever it is?
I mean, quite often. I spoke to him today.
Can you tell us why this person has chosen not to appear in front of this committee? The last time we were talking about this project, we asked because we felt sorry for you at that point because you were newer to the project, and we thought somebody who was there before you came on board should be here to listen to what the community has to say about the project, as well as address some of these issues. I mean, you unfortunately made a statement that the owner had spoken to his adjoining neighbor, and the neighbor pretty much, these are my words, not his, disputes the conversation. So, I mean,
Valerie, you're going way beyond our mandate talking about his internal relationships.
well, I mean,
If he wants to share it, he can share it.
okay, well, I'm asking the question. If he chooses not to answer, that's fine.
I'm also telling you, it's way beyond our mandate to get into this level.
Well, why isn't the owner here? I've attended many of your meetings where the owner of the property.
Of course, but that's the owner's choice. The owner
I
knows
have advised the owner of this meeting and, gave him instructions on how to join. So I don't know if he is present or not, but certainly
David, if I could interject, over the years and years I've been on the Landmarks Committee, the owner very rarely shows up. And if he does show up, he's sitting in the back row just listening.
Well, I don't know,
it's
Jane.
usually the applicant is the architect represents the applicant at all of our meetings.
Well, I don't know, Jane, the few meetings that I've been to, the owner has been in the front row. I can remember 2 at Marymount. So I can only tell you from my experience with the committee. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but those were my experiences.
The presentation is usually done by the architect and/or other professionals. Sometimes the owner is there, and sometimes the owner does speak.
We do
That's
have a
the owner,
raise
but that's the owner's option. More times than not, Jane is correct. That's strictly the professionals, but you're right. There are times when the owner's there. It's very rare where the owner leads the presentation. The presentation is usually led by the lawyers or the architect, and the owner is there to sort of watch and to be able to answer a specific question if it comes up. This owner chose not to do that.
David, we actually have a raised hand. I'm not sure if that's the owner, but.
Well, who's the raised hand?
Carter Potash.
No, I'm not the owner. I just wanted to correct one statement. Mr. Kataro has been the architect on this project from the beginning.
Carter, thank you. I was about to say that also.
Thank you, sorry.
That's all right. You made the point.
Okay, well.
So he clearly has a client, and the client has chosen not to come to any of these meetings. And
okay. All right. Well, I mean, we did it, or at least I did the last time I was on the meeting, suggested that the owner should come. So I'm just asking, I mean, the way he presents it, it's like he's in constant contact with the owner, but then doesn't give the correct information. So that led me to believe that he wasn't actually in constant contact with the owner. But nevertheless, I understand what you're saying. My other question to you is, when you're almost $500,000 in arrears in your taxes, is that ever a stoppage for an approval for a project going forward at Landmarks?
that is not something that we have a mandate to assess. Our
Okay,
mandate,
that's my question. That's my question.
and this is the first time since I've been on the committee, and it's 10 years, that I think we've had something where we've had this level of violations and this level of not being responsive to the community. So I don't have an easy answer for you. There are really no precedents for a situation this bad, with the exception possibly of the stall buildings, where they continue to not want to do what we would like to see done. But even they have accommodated to a certain extent, whereas this particular owner doesn't seem to be accommodating at all. And, you know, if you wanted to get into the technicality of it, I'm going to give the architect the benefit of the doubt and say that the contractor made a mistake. Well, if the contractor made a mistake, the architect and the owner have a right to tell the contractor to correct it. And if he's a legitimate contractor, he carries insurance, and there's no reason why this can't be torn down and built for the original approval. So I don't know what goes on internally, except that nothing seems to happen the way it should in this particular project.
Well, I appreciate that, David, and I think you've said it all. There were opportunities to correct this, and they really haven't been done, and nothing seems to have been done since the last time the architect appeared before us. I actually went and take a look at the building myself, and I couldn't agree more that it looks like a tornado has hit that house, and that the Wicked Witch of the West's legs are at the bottom of it. So I would have to say that I'm going to vote against this project, and thank you very much for the information.
Are there more people on the committee we haven't reached yet?
We've reached them, but Michelle and Alita both raised their hands again.
Well, Jane hasn't commented yet.
Oh, I'll wait till the end, David.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, right. Well, then let's go back to the other committee members. Who was first?
Yeah, I'd like to move to disapprove this project, this applicant as presented. And I would like to encourage that in the whereases, we are not only as strong as we were in the fall.
Michelle, Michelle, why don't you wait until everybody's had a chance to speak, and then you can make the resolution. Jane hasn't had a chance to speak, and somebody else wanted to speak again.
That's fine.
Alita?
Thank you. I'll be very quick. That the architect was the original architect on the project and knew about this makes the statements, well, first he said he wasn't, and that there was another architect on it. So that's
He never said that to my knowledge.
He said he came in the middle. So
No.
Well, that's what I heard.
He came in, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he said that he came in the middle of construction. Why he was not supervising it from day one is a good question. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Let me just super clarify this point. I am the original architect for this project. I was the one that presented the project to the community board originally, and it was approved by the board back then for even one floor higher extension than what we're proposing today. However, construction started without my knowledge, and I came in much later. I was informed that this construction started when Landmarks informed me, actually, that this issue is going on. So all of the construction that has happened, as well as the management of the site and all that, I did not know about it until later. And I'm trying to figure out a way with, getting the owner, the community, Landmarks, and trying to figure out a way to move this project along. It's not an easy journey, but that's where that's the situation I'm in.
Well, thank you for the clarification. I just can't see any way for me to say move this project along without saying undo the wrongs that have been done with respect to this project, and if you're even permitted to do that, and I would object to it, to go back to what the original approvals are. It seems intentional, whether it's by you or not, I don't know. I mean, based on what you're saying, I can't say, but the contractor and the owner certainly show no regard for the process of the city, all of which is necessary to live in a community and to live in the city. So without without being redundant, well, I guess I already am, I'll just say that I just don't think this should go forward in any way at this point. So thank you very much for the opportunity, David, to speak again.
Okay, we have a raised hand from Marco as well.
We have a raised hand from who?
Marco?
Okay.
Thank you, David. Okay, I think this is point of information. The professional is claiming that he never was aware of the construction. Probably he's right, but he's wrong because now the requirements of DOB, you have to have a special agent who's supposed to do the inspection and who's supposed to report to you. That means the progress inspection has to be reported to you immediately before start of the construction, because he has to figure it out, any issues that raise the project, and you have to work together with him. Otherwise, you are not working properly with the special agent, who is the responsible person to supervise that the construction is according what you design. This is a point of information. Thank you.
Kitaro, you want to answer that?
No special inspector. No one has, at the time informed me that any construction had started. So as I said before, I was notified that this construction began when Landmarks contacted me.
Well, Marco is correct that there are special inspections required, plus whatever inspections you're supposed to do. So apparently nothing has been inspected until you came back into the project, and now you're trying to make it right, but you're trying to make something.
Well, I mean,
you're trying to make something wrong right. So
I mean, I can't say. I mean, there may have been special inspections conducted, but if that was the case, I was not informed.
Well, okay, as the professional of record, technically you're supposed to know what's going on. I'm not here to talk about how you should run your business. I think we've gotten far away from appropriateness and context. I think, has anybody else on the committee anything else that they would like to say before we go to Jane? Okay, let's go to Jane.
Oh, well, thank you, David. I'm sure it'll be a unanimous turn down of the application. I just do want to point out that our main concern is always the context and appropriateness within the historic district, and that David is correct that the owner very rarely comes to our meetings in rare cases. I mean, the Metropolitan Museum came when we were discussing the glass curtain wall, the replacement curtain wall for the museum. They did have their community affairs person there. But in general, the owners don't come. And in this case, I'm sure the owner is well aware that he would be walking into a well-deserved lion's den. So I just want to commend especially the neighbors for keeping after us and to being the conscience of that block over there, or the historic district. It's so important that the community organizes and shows up at all of our landmarks committee meetings, as well as the full board meeting when this will actually be voted on by the full board. So I think I've spoken enough. Thank you, David.
Welcome. Well, Michelle, I know wanted to make a resolution, so we'll give you the opportunity.
So I move to disapprove, and I ask that the whereases be even more strong than they were in the last resolution, and very specific, because that will be the only way for the full board to understand all of the ramifications of and the reasons for our disapproval, as that there may or may not be visuals presented to them when this issue comes up for their vote. So I would just like to see all of the violations carefully listed, the dates.
Michelle, I'm not going to list 81 violations, but go ahead.
You're not going to list violations?
81 violations.
Oh, well, I didn't mean the building violations like that. That you can just refer to the fact that there are 81 violations.
I was jesting.
No, oh, okay. I didn't know that, but thank you. No, but just all the violations of what they presented, that they didn't build and how they overbuilt, and the objections of the community. All I'm saying is I hope it presents a very, very clear picture to the full board, because they'll have no actual visual to describe the seriousness and the egregiousness of the situation unless it's in the words. So thank you.
Do we have a second?
We have a thumbs up from Marco.
Okay, so please call the roll.
Okay, 1 second. Elizabeth Ashby.
This is
A yes is
deny, I
a yes is a
assume. Yes.
disapproval.
Okay, yes.
Okay, Gail Barron.
Yes.
Michelle Birnbaum.
Yes.
Alita Camp.
Hi, sorry, I was still muted. I had my hand raised to make a friendly amendment, and I don't know the procedure. I wanted to ask again that we move to revoke, that we ask the
Anything happen?
landmarks to examine and revoke. So I say yes to this, but I don't think it's a firm enough resolution.
I have no objection to that.
Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, yes.
Okay, May is gone. Harrison.
Yes.
Marco.
Yes.
Kimberly.
Yes.
Valerie.
Yes.
Jane.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so out of order. David.
Yes.
Okay.
Saida, I have a request before we continue, and I hand it back to Jane.
Okay.
If we got the letter from Powers' office, if you can get into your office to see if we got that or not.
We did.
I would appreciate a copy of that.
Okay.
If I could get it tonight.
Actually, Will already CC'd it to the committee members.
Oh, okay, thank you. Jane?
Is there a move to adjourn?
Well,
I want
old
to
business-
thank you, Saida, for your tremendous help, technical help. I couldn't survive without you getting everybody on boards to speak and comment, etc.
Thank you all for your patience, and thank you, Will, always.
No, I will echo that. Jane speaks for the co-chairs.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm speaking for the co-chairs. And now I have to be so careful about what I say since we're live streamed.
That's true. Any old business or new business?
Well, I do want to say that I never thought Peter Penoyer would show up tonight. Usually he sends somebody from his office. You know, he has the most beautiful building. For those of you who live near Madison between 79th and 80th Streets, there's the most gorgeous apartment building going up that's, designed by him. Have you seen it, David?
No, it's under
Low,
construction.
it's low in scale. It's just up from, there's a J. Crew on the corner there. And then there were some low brownstones, 3 that got torn down, and it never came to us because it's going up as of right, and it meets the Madison Avenue Special District guidelines plus the Historic District guidelines. It's a beautiful apartment building.
I'll make a
And I think
point.
he also wrote a book on Cross and Cross, who was one of the designers of 4A66th Street, which I have a copy of. I have a copy of all of his books, copies of all of his books. Is there a move to adjourn?
We have a thumbs up from Marco. And Elizabeth and Alita.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. We'll see everybody next month. Valerie, I hope you'll come all the time.
All right, take care.
All right.